What's up, everybody? This is the Ike Inspirations podcast, and today I have a lovely guest named WhyLearn, and I'm extremely excited to have this guy on. He's gonna be our first faceless interview, but that's okay, man. He's working hard on his YouTube, and he's done all great stuff with his growing Call of Duty YouTube channel. So I'm excited to have this guy on to just talk about life, Call of Duty, nostalgia, and personal self-development. So, WhyLearn, can you introduce yourself to the podcast, please?
Yep. Thanks for the intro. It's happy to be here, Ike. It's nice to meet you. And for those who don't know me, I'm WhyLearn. I'm a guy from Wisconsin, a former avid Call of Duty player, software engineer, part-time YouTuber. Now I'm doing a little bit of traveling, and kind of just right now I'm making YouTube videos talking about, finance, nostalgia, and just kind of that sort of thing. So really excited to dive into some of this stuff today. Looking forward to the questions in the podcast.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to have you on. I find your channel very relatable, and it's very refreshing to see someone like you who's just truly being himself, resonating with thousands of people. I don't think we see that enough, honestly. So yeah,
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh no, you're welcome, man. My first.
Thank you for the anonymity part. I just don't know where I want to take my YouTube journey yet. So just doing that for now. So thanks for being flexible with me.
Nah, no doubt, man. I mean, I'm on it. Hey, who knows? Maybe we'll go viral because of fishing. Who knows, man? I don't know, man. But I want to start off the conversation just asking, why do you think your YouTube channel has grown so much? Because I feel like you mentioned, you even introduced yourself as just like a regular guy. Why do you feel like, despite how regular and normal your life may seem, like you're able to resonate with thousands of people?
Yeah, I think I have a good understanding of just like normal people problems that people, like especially guys in their 20s, have growing up. Like there's people have problems with money, people have problems with dating. A lot of people, might miss like the good old days and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I feel like my life has been pretty normal. Like I grew up, I went to school and I went to university, then I got a job. I worked 9-to-5 job for the vast majority of my 20s. And I think I that kind of normal guy in me has never left, despite what adventures I go on. And I think, my YouTube journey kind of reflects that, because I try to talk about things that like normal people can do to become successful. Because I am a believer that no matter who you are, like if you do the right things, even if you're not like extraordinary, doing extraordinary things, you can still be very successful and happy in your life. And that's just kind of one thing I've touched on in a lot of my videos.
Yeah, man. And I've noticed, like, when I watch your videos, like so many people in your comment section are really relating to the wisdom and the content that you're providing, and the words and stories you share, based on like the comments you read and just your observation from living life. What do you think people struggle with the most, and why do you think they find value in your content?
I think the biggest problem people have is finding a purpose in life. Like I think oftentimes people kind of get caught up in just going through the motions. Like most people, and this has been me, many times in my life, where you wake up, you go into a job that maybe you're not that excited about, but it pays the bills. So, you got to go to it, and you come home, maybe you hit the gym, and then you got like 1 or 2 hours to have to yourself. And I think a lot of people just get caught up in that routine, and they're like, man, like I used to be so much more fulfilled, like back in the good old days. And I think people tend to idolize, the good old days too. That's a whole nother thing. But I think people struggle to find their purpose. And then I think the complexities of, the kind of it's harder and harder for us to save money. The job market's tough right now. Dating's as hard as it seems like it's ever been in recent human history. That's a whole nother can of worms we can open up if we want to. Yeah. But I think it's a combination of all those problems. People they're looking for a direction, looking for something that fulfills them, and on top of that, just really challenging other factors in society as well.
Yeah, man. I think you said it well, man. I think there's a deep lack of purpose, man.
Mhm.
And I can go into that a lot, especially in your 20s, man. It gets
Yeah.
weird because you start to become like you go from being like a kid who's guided into like a bigger kid.
Exactly. I feel the same. I agree with that totally.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of
Yeah.
weird. It's like you just kind of get tossed out in the world. There's no real guidance, and you just feel like a travel, like you're wandering the world. At least that's how I've been feeling, to be honest. Like a lot of my life, I feel like I'm just
Yeah.
wandering. I moved from Boston to Philadelphia, and now I'm in Atlanta.
Yeah, we can't talk about Philadelphia on this podcast because the Eagles just beat the Packers. Yeah.
And oh nah,
So I hope you're not an Eagles fan.
no, I'm not an Eagles. I was only in Philly for 2 years. I'm a Boston fan.
Okay.
I'm really Team Patriots. But but that's funny, man. But yeah, I mean, to your point of purpose, man, like it's tough, man. And for me, you mentioned dating, man, and I'll be honest, like I'm a single 29-year-old who recently, broke up with my ex about a year ago, and I'm back in the dating field, and that's been so like tough, man. And I think I was introduced to you because your YouTube video, why dating is so important, popped up into my feed. And
Okay.
it just felt like something that I needed at that time. And it was very relatable because, nowadays when you go on a lot of, like, you hear a lot of advice about women and whatnot, I feel like people are just constantly bashing women, and there's all this high value crap, like, of like how you have to act, and and to just hear like a normal, regular Joe like you, preach what you're preaching about dating was very refreshing because, it wasn't really a perspective I got.
Yeah, I do think like that was actually my video that got the most hate, ironically. That was one of my first videos that took off. And it made me nervous because of a lot of people that seem to have just checked out of dating. And I've been single, a good part of my 20s. I'm not now, but it's tough out there. Like I would get ghosted all the time. It's just kind of empty swiping on the apps. And
Yep.
It's hard to dismiss the apps entirely just because I've seen so many of my friends have like success on apps and get married even from these apps. So it's hard to write it off, but it's something that's pretty draining. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and just the social media era in general seems to have affected dating, maybe in a not as good way. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and I mean, everything you're saying personally, I can relate to. I recently deleted my Tinder app and my online dating app because of that draining feeling. You just feel like honestly, for me, it feels like soft porn. Like I'm just watching, like just swiping a bunch of women like who aren't really interested, only to know that you might get ghosted or whatnot. And there's just so many intricacies to dating, from finances to social obligations, that make these things so hard. So I saw your video and I was just very like, what you're saying was just very relatable.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's a different perspective because there is a lot of women hating on the internet right now, which I also don't think is like very healthy.
Yeah.
I think like there's a couple things at play that this is kind of just my opinion, but I think just the amplification of politics has made dating a lot more just difficult because studies show men are becoming more conservative on average, no matter where you sit in politics. Like that's just that's what it is, and then women are becoming more liberal. And I think that makes dating like a little bit harder because people just have different values, and then you can still have a successful relationship with different politics, but in my mind, it's just harder.
Yeah. There's so many different intricacies, man, and from politics to finance, and then then I know when you're in your 20s too, as a man, like you have to get your money up, and nowadays a lot of people our age can't even afford houses, or may have to stay at their parents' house, and that can come with some so that could come with some weird social stigma, like, oh, what are you doing? But you're actually being financially smart, but the girl's looking at you like a bum. It just gets annoying, like so. Yeah, like you mentioned, you did that. Well, what was that like?
Yeah, so I lived with my parents twice. On my channel, I talk a lot about being like really, really cheap. That's kind of one of the things I'm known for. And so I lived with my parents 2 separate times in my 20s. Both of them were kind of unplanned. So the first time, when COVID hit, March of 2020, I was studying in Madison, the city in Wisconsin at the time. And COVID happened and nobody was doing anything. I feel like being in a city wasn't really the move. So I was like, I might as well move back in with my parents. I had a girlfriend at the time too, which probably played a big role as to why I didn't really care that I lived with my parents, if she was okay with it. And so I did that for a while, and I saved like a lot of money doing that. It was really good for my finances, especially when the market corrected after the COVID crisis. I made money in that stock market that just kept going up. And then eventually, this is about November 2021. So at least a year and a half of living with my parents. I got a new job, decided to move back to the city. And, I was kind of single and dating again, which played a role. Like when I became single, I'm like, I get it. It's going to be really hard to explain, that I'm living here if I'm in the dating market. So, did that, and then moved back in with my parents later in my 20s when I kind of wanted to go on an adventure and travel, quit my job. So I did that to just as a tactic to save money. Essentially, it can be a good thing. I recommend people do it in their early 20s, depending on your situation. Some people don't have chill parents. Some people's parents charge them rent. I was lucky that mine did not do that. So it's a person by person basis. I get where people want to be independent, but at the same time, I mean, I estimated in my case, it probably saved me like $2,000 a month just to live with my parents, which adds up if you do that for years.
Yeah, man. And so, I feel like online now, I think another thing that makes dating so difficult is like now there's just a bunch of dating gurus. Like, you got people preaching this and people preaching that. And it just feels like there's so many voices in your head that you don't, it's kind of hard to know what even to do. Like, you got like people who are very traditional, your older parents telling you one way of doing something, and then you got influence online like Andrew Tate just telling you to do a whole nother different thing. And it's like, what would you say your advice for going about dating is?
Sorry, 1 second. I dropped my pen on the floor.
What
would my advice be for just being just getting out there and dating and finding someone? I'd say that number one, it's a numbers game. You have to keep going. You have to keep trying. It's kind of like going fishing. I like to say if you're fishing, 5 fishing poles as opposed to 1, you're increasing your odds of catching a fish. And if you go fishing every day, eventually you'll have some success. So just, don't give up. Don't get discouraged. Accept that rejection's part of the game. In fact, if you're a normal guy, you're probably going to get rejected the vast majority of the time. I remember I would like keep track of like how many rejections I had versus how many like dates I could go on when I was really like trying to grind the dating market. And it was, it's draining. But I'd also say this too. If you, depending on what your values are. So, some people, I'm a Christian, some people, very religious. I found that, going places where people match your values can help too. I met a lot of great people through kind of church groups and doing things like that. Also workout classes, like if you attracted to people with a healthy lifestyle, like that's not a bad option. I'd say like to be open to anywhere, like never be completely closed off to it. And I think like meeting people, going out to bars and stuff is possible too. But in my mind, it seems to work better doing other stuff when you're sober.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it, man, because your advice is very simple and clear-headed. And I feel like it's rooted in reality. One thing I don't really like about, in general, whether it's online content or just talking about girls with men, like, I feel like a lot of people don't acknowledge the reality is like you're constantly getting rejected. Like, it's not even like it's spite on you. I just think that's the reality for like 95% of men. But I don't feel like that goes about talking. People don't talk about it. Everyone, like, I feel like no one talks about that. But I feel like that's the thing that's scaring people from actually going and shooting the shot, because it gets draining, So I love what you're saying. And another thing I wanted to ask you about what I learned is just Call of Duty. And first of all, from 1 to 10, how good a Call of Duty would you say you are? And what's your favorite Call of Duty platform game?
Man, so 1 to 10, I'm better at some Call of Duties than others, but I would put myself at a solid like 5, 6, maybe slightly better than the average player.
Okay.
In terms of favorite Call of Duty, for me, Modern Warfare 2. That's
Yep.
that's the first game I got. I got my first 360.
Yep.
Played MW2 for Christmas. Completely hooked. Played that game way too much. But I loved it. It was just so much fun. Just the memories with my friends too, and that game never left me in a way.
Yeah. Modern Warfare 2 is definitely my favorite one. I don't know if you remember the Modelo. Like, do you remember the people would be running around with like the double shotgun?
Oh yeah, the Model 1880 service. Yeah,
that I remember that. I remember that was so OP, but
and it passed it.
when I did it, I was like, "Oh, it's cool." But when other people did it, I was like, "Oh, come on, what is this crap?" Like,
yeah, no, they got rid of that. Like that was fun for a little bit of time, and then too many people complained, and they made it a lot weaker. So it ended up not even being that good. If you go into the game now, they needed to do that with noob tubes. Noob tubes are really bad too. It's where it's the grenade launcher. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So man, like I haven't played Modern Warfare, or I mean, just in video games just as much. I mean, I still play, but not as much. Like when we're younger, and that was another thing that I did kind of find interesting about you is that you're playing the games now, and I'm curious, like what is it? What's the feeling you get playing Call of Duty, as someone who's in the older 20s versus now versus in the past,
Yeah, I think now it's kind of just like a relaxing thing. Like some people go watch TV, watch Netflix. For me, it's like, I'll load up, an old video game I used to like and play a couple games. It feels different because the games are a lot like less populated and people overall are much better now than 2009. I feel like in 2009 everybody sucked at the games and it was pretty casual. Now people are like on their monitor, on their keyboard, mouse, like they're just going to destroy you, and you're like kicking back on your couch trying to relax. I'd say for now though, I use video games a lot as like to keep track of like friends from throughout my life that I'm not in the same location as, and I can say, hey, shoot them a text, hey, you want to play a couple games after work, and then that's my version of like calling someone to catch up, just playing a couple of games with them.
Yeah, just a nice way to like decompress and chill. Now, I feel that, man. Like, and I'm sure because you're on YouTube and you're a Call of Duty YouTuber, you probably seen a lot of videos about the state of video games and why video games felt better in the past. I don't know if you seen them, but I remember you because you were just talking about like how I'm the only one who experienced this, but when I played a new Call of Duties, like it just feels like everyone's a try hard. People are like doing all this like sliding, like I don't know, like just like doing all these weird hacks, man, and Call of Duty in general doesn't feel the same, but to me, a lot of video games in general don't feel the same. And I don't know if that's me getting older or if that's just, I don't know what it is. I'm someone who's an avid gamer. Do you think about that or like, or contemplate that?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. I think the gaming companies have changed a lot. I think when I was younger, when I was a kid, it was more of an art form. It was like a group of guys that had a lot more creative power. And there's definitely more of a corporation now where they're interested in selling skins and transactions so that they make more profits. And I actually made a video about this. The title of it's like, did capitalism ruin video games? I say this as a guy who's I am like a capitalist. I believe in that system. I believe it's not perfect, obviously, but I think in video games it's kind of ruined it to an extent where it's just there's too much focus on how they can get money out of the customers, and they keep releasing the same games with like minimal updates and kind of maps that we don't like, and on top of that, like you said, the players have gotten much better over time. So it's a mixture of things, and also we're in a different phase of life. Like back in my heyday, I could just play for like 8 hours straight and feel amazing about myself after. And now if I play for 8 hours straight, I'm just like, man, what am I doing? Like talk to someone today. Yeah.
What am I doing? Like, what the hell am I doing? I get that. I get the same exact feeling, man. I remember I would play zombies for hours, and I can go to like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., especially if I'm going like really high with my boys or something. Now, if I try to do that, I try to do that for nostalgia's sake. Like I just couldn't go past like 12 p.m. or so.
Yeah. Now you try to do that, and other guys are like, oh, like I got to put my kid to bed, or I got to hang out with this person today. It's so different because of all the responsibilities.
Yeah, Yeah, man. So, another thing I wanted to talk to you about, man, that I think that you've done at your age, which is very impressive, is I think you're very like financially astute. And again, another thing I like about you is like, you're just very normal. And you in your videos, you mentioned how you've been able to save hundreds of thousands of dollars at the tender age of 28.
Mhm.
And I think that's just incredible. And like you're literally like no like a not an like you're just an average Joe who had a 9 to 5 job. How were you able to do that? Because I think that's very valuable, and I don't think a lot of men our age can contemplate that or even really or have experienced that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people when they get their first full time job, they start to see the money roll in. They have a tendency to say like, "Okay, now I have this extra money. Now maybe I can get a nicer car. Maybe I can get a much better apartment. Maybe I could buy like designer clothing or upgrade, get better shoes, stuff like that." And that's fine and okay, but in my mind, it's the battle is what can you save and invest early on. So I did actually just make a couple videos on this where I talked about a couple decisions I made in my 20s that are really decisions that anybody can make. One of them was I lived with roommates for like a long time from age 18 to 23. I lived with multiple roommates, even shared a room with someone, which is definitely very annoying, but saved me a good amount of money. I did that. I always bought cheap cars. So the most I've ever paid for a car was $5,000. Whereas like a lot of my friends go out and they buy, $30,000 car. And if you enjoy cars and you're a car guy, that's fine, but it, comes at a financial cost.
Yeah.
And last but not least, lived with my parents, which saves a good amount of money for a while too, while I still worked. And just doing that. And then I've been lucky that the 5-6 years that I've been investing, only one of them's been a down year, and all the other years have been great years for the at least US stock market. So yeah, just combination of being cheap and investing in pretty stable, easy things has it got me a good head start for my age.
Yeah, I'm curious, like, where did you have that foresight to live or think like that? Because I feel like in your 20s, like that's not really a common thing. Like, everyone's just trying to go to the bar, or people are trying to focus on those.
Alcohol's expensive too. That's another thing I didn't touch on. I did party a little bit in college, and eventually, like I kind of grew out of it a little bit in my late 20s. Because that is expensive too, and my hangovers got just a lot worse. That was honestly the main deterrent. But yeah, where did I get the just the insight on that? I'd say I had some good examples of my family to follow, and like my dad, my uncle, just said, "Hey, like now that you got some money coming in, you got to realize what you got to think about what to do with it. You can't just have it sit there. You can't spend it all. You want to have a plan of so in the future it can work for you." And yeah, no, I've been introvert, I'd say almost my entire life. Like now I've kind of learned how to be an extrovert when you need to be.
Yeah.
Reason when you can tell you're an introvert when like after a day of talking to people or you go to work all day, then it's like you want like isolation, like for a day after that. You don't want even say a word to anyone. Like that's kind of how I feel.
Yep.
And I've learned to manage that over time. Like early in high school, some young men, it's hard to figure that stuff out early on. You just kind of have to learn it.
Yeah, and and one of the weird things about, because I've been introverted all my life, but I wasn't really self-aware of the tendency until I got older. But I've always, even when I was in lunch, I always just wanted to sit by myself. Like, and back then, because of the social obligations, it's kind of like a weird thing. Why is this kid like sitting by himself? Like, that's not really like a thing you do in high school. And I wouldn't say I got bullied for it, but it was just like a natural inclination for me. I didn't like being in large groups of people. As I've gotten older, I've started to realize like I like talking to people, but I like talking to people one-on-one. I don't generally prefer large groups. Like I like this, because I feel like once you're in large groups, like, you can't really like express yourself. You kind of have to wait. Kind of have to like, I don't know. It's just never been my thing,
Yeah. I agree with that too. It's much more draining to be in a big group where there's you got to worry about everyone and what everyone's saying, and it's exhausting. Yeah,
man. So,
definitely get that.
Yeah, man. So I want to kind of dive into your YouTube channel a bit and just explore that.
Okay.
Because you transitioned from working from 9 to 5, you saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now you're doing something that you're more passionate about. Can you talk about some of the pros and challenges of that? Because I think that's what I'm working towards. I'm working a 9 to 5, and and I plan on working there. Maybe, I don't know. I might stay. I might do. I don't know where life will take me, but
Yeah.
I think it's important to do stuff you're passionate about and whatnot. But I think it comes with its challenges too. So, do you mind talking about that?
Yeah. So pros and cons of kind of what I did. I guess I'll just tell the story of like how I set it up. So I kind of made the decision early 2024, like that I was going to leave my job. I wanted to do a little bit of traveling, be close with my girlfriend, do some traveling with her. And I my job, I was like, I wasn't like passionate about it anymore. I thought it was just kind of time for a switch. I was kind of found myself going through the motions, like working on something I wasn't super excited about, and it was consuming all my time and energy. So kind of made a pretty proactive plan. Just to like set myself up financially to where I knew I'd have like a couple years if I needed to of just, figure something out. And then midway through 2024, I just like part of my my searching for creativity, you could like searching for a purpose, you could say, I just started a YouTube channel, started talking about just random stuff that I noticed that was challenging and stuff that I was thinking about. And then that started to get traction. And then by the time I left my job, I had kind of two sources of income. I had my dividends from my stock portfolio, and then I had like 10,000 subs on YouTube at that point. So I wasn't making nothing anymore, which made me more comfortable to take that leap. And honestly, like it's been, I don't regret it for a second. Don't regret doing it at all. I think my concern is if this stuff doesn't work, I'm gonna have to explain what I've been doing this whole time. And I don't know if I want to say to like a professional employer, like, oh yeah, I have this YouTube where I talk crap about, dating and all this stuff. Like, I don't know. Like that's one of the worries about me. And then obviously not having like near the same amount of money coming in that I used to. I am going like negative. I'm eating into my cushion, definitely.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to fight with YouTube, or, get my YouTube up, get my investments, put away to where I can at least break even would be my near-term goal.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I think there's a lot of great pros and cons. Like you mentioned, I feel like everyone talks about chasing their dreams, but no one really wants to talk about the cost that it takes. First
It's
of all,
a risk, definitely.
It's a huge risk, man.
Yeah,
it's a huge risk.
It's a tough job market too. Like I might not get a job like for a while after this. So I really that's something I'm scared about sometimes. It's like, yeah, if this fails, there's downsides. It could be a huge financial and career hit for me.
For sure, man. Yeah, for sure. I mean, employers, they don't like when they look at that resume gap and then, what the hell were you doing for 2 years? And like, hey, man, I was making YouTube videos and trying to help people through my therapeutic talks. I don't think that's bad, dude.
Yeah.
But
some people fight it cool. A lot of people will be like, okay, so he just smoked weed all day for 2 years, right? So they're gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, man. And then another thing that's interesting to note about, this quote unquote pursuing your dreams in any type of manner is just the identity change. I think for me personally, that's probably the hardest thing. Like, just kind of embracing a whole new identity. I don't know if that's been hard for you, but now I'm not going to say you're an A-list celebrity. You're not, you're just a YouTuber, but now you have 25,000 subscribers who literally look to you for advice. I know people will like send you emails and like, it's kind of like there's this new identity change that you have to embrace. What kind of struggle has that been a struggle for you, or has that been an easy transition?
Definitely what is that struggle? Definitely a struggle, because like I'm sure most people, especially in America, it seems like you identify with what your job is. Like, oh, what are you up to? Yeah, I'm just working. I'm software engineer. I'm accountant. XYZ, whatever you are. And then all of a sudden, it's like, people think you're kind of crazy. They're like, "What? You quit your job? Like, what's your plan? What are you gonna do? Are you okay? Are you like losing your mind? What's going on here?" Then you have to like explain. And then I really haven't fully uncovered like my YouTube channel to a lot of people in my life. Like I've recently told my parents about it. I've recently told like a lot of my close friends who I game with always knew about it. But in terms of like a lot of people, I don't talk about it, just because I think my thoughts are the freest, you could say, if like I'm just talking into like the void, you could say, where it's not like, oh, is my mom going to think I'm sad if she watches this video? Like, I don't know. I'd like get in my head sometimes. So it's definitely been an identity shift. Like that's a good question. It's just, you totally identify with your job a lot of the time. And then we don't have that. It's like, what are you now? Now I just kind of say like, yeah, I do a lot of part-time things, part-time on YouTube. I'm traveling and just doing my thing. Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird thing. I get really introspective on life, man. And it's just like, I mean, for me, it's like, for me, and you're a software engineer. I'm a pharmacist. I don't know how passionate you are about software engineering, but for me, I'm not that passionate about pharmacists. But yet, I spend most of my time doing that, and it's kind of like that's not really my identity internally, but extrinsically, and how
probably is when you're in conversations with people, right?
Yeah, it's like a weird thing. Like I don't go telling people, like when people ask me, hey, what am I doing? I tell them I'm a pharmacist, but I don't go like, oh, but I don't really give a crap about the career. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I just kind of say, I'm a pharmacist, I'm doing well, like whatever. And then people have tremendous respect for it, as they should. It took me a long time to get the degree.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like a weird like kind of thing, you know what I'm saying? Because you don't get excited.
It's similar to like software engineering in the fact where it's like it's an important job that people will like absolutely respect you for.
Yeah,
but it doesn't make you feel any better. It's like, oh yeah. If anything, you just have peace of mind that your bills are paid and you're putting money away for the future.
Yeah,
but they like. I'm sure there's days you get caught up in the motions too. It's just what happens. I don't know. And like I've gone through like peaks and valleys with my engineering career, where there's sometimes I'm on a project that I'm really like into and I love the people around me, and sometimes you get put on something and you're like, oh, can I quit next week? Like it's just ups and downs with it. But yeah, no, I agree. It's all about finding stuff on the side. Like you found this podcast, and you've got some good traction on YouTube as well. I think like this is a good outlet. I could tell you're a really positive guy. I just immediately, when we hopped on the call, I was like, wow, I like this guy's energy.
Man, no, I would say I'm a very positive guy, especially when the person I'm speaking to is like, I'm very interested in, whether it's my friends or people on the guest. I just get really excited. But yeah, I mean, and then it also, I also want to mention, like, cause we talked about like, we talked about like, there was something I wanted to bring up, but I just had a brain fart. God dang it. It happens, man. But
happens to the best of us.
Yeah, happens to the best of us, man. But but I appreciate the compliment on the energy change. Oh yeah, what I wanted to say was, it's kind of weird because we have these like identity struggles with our jobs, but for me, is like as I've gotten, so I have like this weird like relationship in college. Like I was studying pharmacy for like 6 years, and there were so many times where I dreaded it. I'm like, why the hell am I doing this? I felt like my parents. I was doing this for my parents. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then 2-3 years once I became a pharmacist, made more money than I've ever been. After being a broke college student, like, you know what I'm saying? I made a lot more money than I ever did, but I still didn't like it, especially what I was doing. I was working retail, and then I eventually started working from home, and that has been a game changer for me because I feel like
that frees you up.
Yeah, it changed the work dynamic of what it's like. But then as I've gotten older, I'm actually now having a greater appreciation for what I have, because I feel like my job has allowed me to do everything that I actually care about. Like if I didn't have this if I wasn't a pharmacist, I couldn't do this podcast. And I feel like you could probably say the same thing with your software engineer. Like
I could not have done what I did.
Yeah. You couldn't afford what you're doing or make the travel decision to go to wherever you are, So yeah,
absolutely. You do need, like, that's kind of why there's a big popular thing in my community right now where it's like, you got to just leave your 9 to 5, And then I tried to put the brakes on that where I'm like, well, like, you got to be careful if you do. It's not something you can just do. Like, it requires, for me, it was years of planning and investing and trying to find other ways to, because the money, you have to make money. That's the society we live in. You got to figure out how to do it. And, that's just the way things are, and you can't just go and quit.
I love it, and that's why that's one thing I love about your channel. Is like I feel like you're very even keel and just rooted in reality. Just like with the dating advice that I feel like you give is simple and pure. Even this, I think, is true. Like on social media now, like it's so easy to make money because of entrepreneurship and our access to to the internet, it's kind of like a hot, trendy thing. Like, oh, you gotta be an entrepreneur, and like, oh, you gotta do this and like make millions of dollars. Not and well, and a lot of people don't really like acknowledge the fact that like I think it's 90% of businesses fail, and the reality of starting a business is not an easy thing. It's not easy, man. Trust me. I've tried a lot, and I have some moderate success, but I want to say it's made me like millions of dollars, and it's not an easy thing, man. You know?
Yeah. It's like people think that it's this glamorous lifestyle where you're flying first class, you got a nice car, you can go to the pool whenever you want, and like maybe that's true after 10 years of success, but this first few, you're on the grind. Like even for me, I mean, I'm still like just with YouTube alone, it's like to get 4 or 5 videos out a week that are like intelligent videos that people will watch. Like that's a good amount of work. That's like probably almost a full-time job, like 40 hours a week to keep up with the content and interact with people and see what's going on in your community. And it's absolutely, it's not all it's cracked up to be. Sometimes it's a lot of work. And they say like the job that most young kids want to be in life is a YouTuber. Yeah. It's you have to enjoy editing. You have to enjoy coming up with ideas. You got all sorts of things.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And I remember, I mean, I'm a YouTuber too, although I don't really like go telling people that, but I have 2 YouTube channels, and editing, man, that's not fun. Like a lot of people, when people watch YouTube videos, everyone like envisions the end result, but no one actually cares about the content creation or the time it took to brainstorm or like the actual editing that went into like the creation of it. People just look at the end result of the video and imagine that feeling it brought without really like everything that went into it,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a lot more than it seems. But it is fun too. Not all of it feels like work. Like I think how my brain works is like always just throughout my day when I'm doing random stuff. Like maybe I'll be at the gym and I'll read a sign on the wall. I'll be like, oh, that gives me an idea. That could talk about this video. I could talk about this video. It is, so it's like not all work, you could say. But it's definitely there's a lot that goes into it to be successful. Definitely.
Yeah. So, as a YouTuber, and that now I know you're trying to succeed in YouTube, and I know you want to grow your channel, and you've had a few viral videos, and I'm just kind of curious to hear like your thoughts on this. Like, what are your thoughts on virality, and also the videos that did go viral or performed well? What do you think caused that video to go viral?
Yeah. So the videos that went viral, in my mind, there are topics that apply to a wide variety of people. So I think my top 3 most viral videos are either about money or dating. So pretty much stuff that applies to anyone walking around on this earth, basically. And so that's like part 1. You got to make sure the title's catchy and still like also delivers. You got to make sure the video's interesting so that people watch through it, because I think YouTube values people who stay, like videos that get people to stay on their platform. So like it not only do they like clicking on it, it's like, oh, that's interesting, then they'll actually watch it. So for me, it's like picking a topic that applies to a lot of people, and then that balanced with it being like a video that actually delivers on what you're saying in the title. And in terms of virality, it still seems pretty random to me. Like I'm a stats nerd with my YouTube videos and just all that stuff, and it seems pretty random at times. So it's like, wow, this video, like people watched almost the whole thing 60% of the time, which is like insanely good. But then it gets like no views. And then this video I upload just kind of, winging it. It's just something I wanted to get out there. It ends up being the one that does really well. And that's always confused me. I think virality is like, that's kind of what you're shooting for when you're making videos, because each time you get a viral video, you get a bump in subs. And then when you return to that baseline, because YouTube's ups and downs, you'll have a baseline of like views you get. For me, it's like maybe 6,000 to 10,000 views a day, and then you get a bump. You get maybe 20,000 views in a day, and then it comes back down lower. But the lower is a little bit higher, if that makes sense. Like maybe
I know what you mean.
6,000 views, now you're getting 8,000 a day. So it's like
you're
shooting for the viral videos, but at the same time, you have to acknowledge that it's extremely volatile and unpredictable, and nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes with the algorithms. It's you go crazy if you're trying to guess what that's going to be all day.
Yeah. For me, there was a point when I was doing YouTube, because I started other channels, and when I was younger, I think I was a lot more intentional about trying to go viral. But after a while, after creating so many videos, it's kind of like, man, this is no, it's just hard, man. Like I
Yeah.
feel like once I have that mentality, I'm becoming a slave to the algorithm. And
Mhm.
once I do realize what goes viral, I feel like I have to create videos that I don't really care to continuously make,
Yeah.
but like but like it'll go viral, but you don't really care to continuously make it. And I see it from YouTubers all the time, whether it's talking about the finance YouTubers who are constantly talking about passive income. Like, yeah, that's kind of a hot topic, but like
It's
it's kind
clickbaity.
of,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? It's kind of vague. It's like, what does that mean? Like, it's the whole concept of passive income is just like, something, but it's just all these kind of vague hot topics that people just do for clicks. Like, I'm
Yeah.
wondering if you ever got that feeling.
Yeah, there's a balance to be struck where I have ideas in my head that I know could go viral.
Yeah.
But it's like I'd almost lose trust of people that do like watch my videos. Like I think that's one big thing I want to do is I want people to like trust me. Like when they click
Yeah.
on a video, they'll be like, he's got good intentions with the video. He did research and the video's not going to be perfect, but like hopefully there's something to take away from it. Um, I want people to trust me, and then by that I don't want to like feed them crap like by
Yeah.
saying, yeah, here's how to make $5 million per year in passive income. It's like I how hard it is to get to that point. It took me like a long time to get to $500 a month in passive income, like a long time, and a lot of things had to go right for that.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not really passive when you think about it. Like my dividends portfolio took, you know, 7 years of investing and working my 9 to 5 job. And then YouTube was a little bit luckier because it did happen faster. But you could also make the case like I had YouTube channels for years and years when I was a kid that nothing happened. So
Yeah.
it looked like it happened in 4 months, but we'll count the years before that when I was doing YouTube as a kid too. It
Yeah.
didn't happen overnight.
And most YouTubers don't even reach your level of that success that quickly, like or,
Mhm.
or or even to get to 25K, like that. Most YouTubers, like, are really not like just growing that quickly. So I would argue you're an anomaly, although you do make great content.
Mhm.
Um and yeah, and so yeah, I guess we can talk a little bit about that too, about the concept of passive income, man, because also one thing that you've done in your channel that I think is cool is like you talk about investing. And I feel like the way I respect your investing philosophy, and honestly I kind of envy it a little bit because I ended up purchasing 3 properties, and as I've
Mhm.
gotten older, I'm kind of regretting it, to be honest, because
Really?
it's yeah. A lot of people talk about real estate, like, and don't get me wrong, it's very glamorous. I mean, it's not. It has its benefits,
Yep.
but it comes with a lot of headaches that I feel like no one really talks about, man. And quite frankly, to be honest, I've been going through some headaches with real estate, and I'm at a
Yeah.
point in my life, man, where I'm just thinking of just selling it all. Maybe I sold one of them recently, but I'm thinking of just selling it all and just starting afresh, and maybe starting an online business that doesn't require, like, this is so much BS, man. I can go
Yeah.
on and on.
I've heard some nightmare stories. Some
Yeah.
people like in my life. I remember one guy, and he bought a house like kind of not in a good area, which I think is probably a mistake too. Like one of his tenants got mad at him and like burned part of the house down. Like holy crap, man, that's not what I want if I'm doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, my
Yeah,
my grandpa had like a property, and he was always running into problems with tenants, and the laws seem to protect the tenants more than like the person who owns the property. At least
man.
where I am.
Yeah,
So I
man.
just saw this and I'm like, you know what? I might not like the potential is really high in real estate. If you
Yeah.
hit a home run on a property where the property goes up in value, and then you can, you can earn from rent and stuff too, and you get a nice, reliable tenant that pays you rent on time, then that's like a home run. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But there's the risk of you get a terrible tenant.
Yeah.
Not sure what's happened in your situation, but I'm sure it's some combination of that.
Yeah.
In terms of stock market, it's as passive as it gets. You just invest and hope it keeps going up like it has the last 100 whatever years,
Yeah.
and just collect the dividend money, which will be less, but the headaches aren't there, which is nice.
Yeah, I do a little bit of both. I would say, but I would say probably I invested like a quarter or a third of my capital in stocks, and then
Mhm.
maybe like two-thirds of it in real estate. But
Yeah.
yeah, with real estate, man, it's just you have your tenants, like one of the things, I'm in the process of trying to evict one of my tenants, and just like you said with the tenants, like even when you try to evict them, it can take months to just
Yep.
let them out because you got to go through lawyers who aren't responsive.
Mhm.
And to keep it simple for me personally, I just don't like the type of people that you generally run to in the real estate business. I've done all types of business ventures,
Mhm.
and I feel like the type of people you can come through across a lot of shady people on real estate. So yeah,
Oh,
I definitely understand. I definitely understand that. So when I hear you talk about investing in the stock portfolio, I'm like, man, sometimes I'm like, I should have done that. But I mean, I also did my properties did appreciate well too. So I'm not
yeah.
complaining. Like I bought one of them during the pandemic and just went crazy.
That's perfect. Yeah, it's hard to
Yeah.
go wrong doing that.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I hope
Yeah.
it works out for you. It's real estate's it's a another option that's extremely viable, and there's a ton of
Yeah.
people become multimillionaires off of it. Yeah, as with anything, sometimes you hit the home run, sometimes you strike out and lose the game. You
Yep.
don't.
Yep. Yep. Exactly, man. But I think it's all. I think that is just about embracing uncertainty and just riding with the wave. Because just like with real
Yeah,
estate or stocks, you can lose money in either
yeah,
one, man. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
You know.
COVID, everyone lost like 30% of their money basically in a couple weeks. Like I
Yep.
try to go through my, even if your portfolio is like going up, it's like, yeah, like how would I feel if 30% of this was gone next month? Like I try to tell myself that a lot because that has happened in our lifetime and it will probably continue to happen. It's a crazy world. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Nah, man. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like every time I invest, man, like I just have to constantly remind myself that if I don't need the money, then that's kind of like the biggest thing for me because it allows me to be
Mhm.
emotionally detached.
Yeah.
I'll be honest too. There was a time I invested in crypto, and man, I just got screwed over because of the whole FTX thing, the Voyager,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I'm saying, and so. But God willing, I didn't need the money, so it's not like I'm
That's
going
good.
crazy,
Yeah.
like you know what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
I'm just constantly reminded that if I'm gonna invest in anything, like you just make sure it's not money you need. It's just like, you
Yeah.
know, yeah,
Especially things like crypto. I think it's so new that there's
yeah,
the market's still kind of figuring out where it's going to go and what's going to be. And it's ripe for scams because government can't keep up fast enough with these new technologies to regulate them efficiently. At
yeah,
least that's what it seems like. So people are getting scammed and the court cases are going to take forever. So people just run with the money. All of a sudden they transfer the money to a different country and now you can't get it. And it's all crazy.
yeah, man, yeah, man. Yeah. So, and another thing, man, that I just really wanted to talk to you about, man, because you man, like, I know you're just like you. I mean, I don't know, like you saying you're very regular, but I feel like when I watch your videos, I just kind of get like a really cool guide of what a man in their 20s is like, and I feel like your experiences really validate mine. And one of the things that you talk about a lot, like aside from a sense of purpose, is this feeling of wandering. And
Mhm.
to be honest, I feel like I have that a lot. And it's kind of like a weird thing. It's like I embrace it, but it's also kind of weird. Like I don't really know where. I don't know. I find myself traveling, just kind of trying to figure things out, trying new businesses, doing new things, and just doing a lot of unconventional things, and embracing that wandering mindset. Do you, you know, do, how do you go about dealing with that? Because I know you took the leap of faith to just travel internationally, and I feel like you've had your wandering experiences.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah, and I'm still wandering literally as we speak. I think I've opened the one thing I've learned in my 20s is I've learned to accept that it's not a bad thing to be, you could say, lost or wandering, because that's just like your body's an intelligent being, and it knows if something's not right in your life, it's going to give you little signals. I mean, if you're stuck in a situation, maybe you're not happy at work, like you're gonna feel like that you want something else. You're gonna feel like, oh, maybe I want to go try this thing.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing because that's how you'll discover like cool things. Like I kind of fell in love with traveling. I wouldn't have started my YouTube if I wasn't like longing to do something else too. So it's like it's not all a bad thing. I think a lot of cool things can spawn from it too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I guess for me, sometimes it may not feel like a natural thing where you
Mm.
feel like you're the only one who's doing it, or again, like it doesn't is it kind of it could come off risky, like or it's kind of like or when you do it, people give you like, what's the point of that? Like why, Lauren? What's the point of creating a YouTube channel? Like, you know what I'm saying? Is I'm
Yeah,
like, why the hell are you leaving America, perhaps the greatest country in the world? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
this is these things that that you feel compelled to do that you just do, and it's kind of
Mhm.
hard to explain. You know.
Yeah, no, it is like it is a balance where people will think you're crazy if you go off the beaten path. I mean, I've definitely could hear it in people's voices where they're like, "But you quit that job? Like that's a great job. Why would you leave that job? Like, you're gonna put your career. It's a bad job market too. Like, what are you doing? Oh, you're gonna go travel? Like, what's your plan? How are you gonna make money?"
Yeah.
And it's like a part of it is just like anxiety with dealing with people too. Like people, a lot of people do think in like very structured, normal ways, and they
Yeah.
like at least half of people immediately just will not understand, and they will think you're absolutely crazy. And I've accepted that because most questions people do ask of me, I've deeply thought about it. Right, like
Yeah.
how am I gonna financially survive? Well, I've for 2 3 years I've like deeply strategically planned this. It's not
No.
like an accident, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I just you gotta wander, you gotta try new things. I think that's where a lot of people will find their purpose is maybe something that
Yeah.
they didn't even know existed for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, you seem like you're a pretty cheap guy, so you don't
Oh
seem
yeah,
like you need much
I really
much
don't
to
need
thrive.
much. Yeah, not
Yeah.
much at all.
Yeah, yeah, man, yeah, man. So, yeah, I mean, my last question that I had prepared for you, while Lauren was, where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Let's see. I hope. I hope my first of all, let's start with YouTube. I hope I'm at least at 100,000 subscribers, and it's something that where I'm having a good impact on the community, and maybe collaborating with a lot more people that maybe even people I watched growing up will give me a chance on my videos and continue to to impact people that way. Like to think, I'm a family man. I'm hoping in 5 years I have a family, and I think that would be really sick. Uh, and then I don't know. When I get this question, it's hard to give like a concrete answer, especially
Yeah,
professionally. Like,
of
is
course.
software engineering something I want to return to? Maybe in my own way. Maybe there's a way I could connect WhyLearn
Yeah,
with that. I've always thought about that too. Um, so hard to say. It's always an interesting question, but I appreciate it. It gets you to think about what's important almost.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird. Yeah, I do know what you mean about that question. It's a weird question because it's really hard to predict where you'll be in 5 years.
Yeah.
If you ask me 5 years from now where I would be, hey, you'll be creating a podcast and you're gonna be in Atlanta. I would, what the hell are you talking about, dude? Like,
Yeah.
like it's kind of weird. So I know what you mean. It's kind of
Yeah.
it's a weird question, but sometimes depending on the person, I feel like all types of interesting answers can come, man.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, man.
So yeah, but at the end of the day, I want to continue to do stuff that keeps me engaged, keeps me interested. See if
Yeah.
I can find a way to make enough money to live along the way, and yeah, just continue to do things that are interesting to me, and whatever makes me feel fulfilled at the time, which could always change.
Yeah, 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 man. I agree, man. Well, look, well, Lauren, honestly, it's been a great pleasure having you on, man. I feel like a lot of people in their 20s, especially men, can learn some stuff from your content and gain some value. If people are interested in connecting with you or perhaps finding you, where can they do that?
Yeah, so this is one thing that people find interesting when I answer. Literally, YouTube is my only social media as of now. I've
Oh,
thought
wow.
about what I'd want to branch into, but as of now, I have yeah, just YouTube, and then I have like an email in my YouTube, which I'm pretty active on. So I'd say those two things. I will branch out in the future, but for now, I want to keep it simple. So
For sure.
just YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Nah, okay, man. That's dope, man. I honestly, I think it's cool that you limit your social media. I don't know. I think too much of it can cause all types of distractions. So, yeah,
Exactly.
that's dope, man. Plus, I think YouTube is the best platform out there. That's just
I do too. I think 100%. It's where the people like me are, and people like you too.
yeah,
Uh, I just think it's the best platform to share long form ideas, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah.
I mean, I have like my personal Instagram and stuff, but it's just like real doom scrolling, almost brain rot half the time. So
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan.
Yeah, I feel like that with IG and TikTok. I never even got TikTok, but I feel like when I'm on those apps, I literally just feel like my brain cells are depleting. So
That's how I feel too. Yeah.
So yeah.
No WhyLearn Instagram right now, at least until I have a plan of something I'd want to do with it. But
yeah. Well, hey, look, y'all. There you have it. This was WhyLearn. We had a great podcast. And I'm grateful to have him on. And remember, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams.
Exactly. Amen to that. Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is amazing. I loved your positivity, love your energy, and I think you have a bright future on your YouTube as well.
Thank you, Vosh. If you enjoyed this conversation, feel free to write me a review on Apple or Spotify and subscribe for more content. I'm on a mission to inspire as many people as I can, and your reviews will help me reach a wider audience. Thank you.